Hello, hello, and hope everyone's doing well this morning, this evening, wherever you are in your day. A little drink. My name is Jen. I am going to be getting started today and talking about safe space. So, safe space has a lot to do with how our nervous system is presenting itself, not only on a moment to moment basis, but on our whole grand scheme in life as well. And so, to break that down a little bit, what I mean by that is when you feel safe, heard, respected, and ultimately your needs are being met, your nervous system ends up kind of working its way to a point where you have quite a bit of space before you reach your own unique I guess critical mass, peak, being able to handle things. And then once it goes past that threshold, it goes into a lot of that reptilian brain where your body, your mind, just isn't making the best choices. It's making the choices more geared on just reaction to the scenarios, and not on feeling, or not on being attuned to your body, and attuned to the other bodies that happen to be in your situation or in your environment. So how does that really affect us, and how does that either work for us or work against us? We're going to take that really broad subject, and we're going to break it down a little bit today, and just key in and focus on the safe space itself. So really keen into what does it mean for me when I say, I'm in my safe space? What does it mean when I'm starting to feel like I'm not in my safe space? And what do all of us have the option of doing to change that environment, to step away from, to opt out, really, when the environment isn't reaching a place that is conducive for our well-being. And again, for some, this might feel a little bit sticky, or maybe even heavy. Might start to pick at, or at least bring to light, possibly how you have done things in the past, and maybe even why you have done things in the past. So stay tuned. The very first thing that we want to do, especially when we're getting into conversations like this, is really making sure that we have some solid, relaxing, making sure that your environment now is in a space that feels very comfortable, that you are aware and feeling, I have my nice warm hot tea. I'm just kind of getting myself comfy here. So here, let's just get this set up. And I think we're going to need to turn on some light. Welcome to the day. Okay, so first of all, activating the hands. Now, for today, and again, for just taking in this information, if you're in a laying down position, beautiful. If you want to be listening while you're doing some stretches, incredible. I'm a big fan of multitasking, within limits. What we're doing first here with our hands is just activating the energetic field, activating and really attuning ourselves to our physical. So the hands have a lot to do with that, and they can be. It's like a multifunctionable tool, is how I look at it. So rubbing the hands just kind of activates some energy within the body. It is a healing tool, self-healing tool, healing tool for others. But for today, it's all about ourselves. For right now, it's all about ourselves. And then once you release, you can really feel, again, practice and play with it. It's just more of a piece, whether you feel kind of that energetic pull in between the hands. You can place it on the body. You can do a little bit of self body work if you're in a space, or if you're finding that your body's in a space that's feeling ever so slightly tight or uncomfortable. And then it's a really wonderful opportunity just to kind of create a little bit of self touch. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of work through a little bit in my neck. relaxing out the shoulders. And I'm going to kind of lean back here with my tea. So get comfy. My big mason jar full of tea. It's my morning drink. It's amazing. It's how I get up early and feel energized for the whole day. So important to my ritual, my routine. Okay, when we are talking about and when we are visualizing ourselves in a calm and relaxed environment, hopefully like the environment that you just created and cultivated for yourself right now, this should feel, and I say should with purpose. Should meaning I don't often want to use that word, but should means that your environment, especially when you're kind of maybe taking a little bit of self-care time, you're taking some time for yourself so that you can mm, maybe look at things with a different perspective, be in a state of mind that you're open to hearing what's being said and what's being expressed. um, yeah, so this space that you're in right now should feel very safe, and a safe space is important for what we're talking about today. What I want you to now begin to visualize, and you can choose to keep your eyes open, or you can choose to close your eyes and just allow yourself to kind of go into a time, which we've all had, go into a time within sometime within the recent kind of parameters within your recent story, and find a time that didn't feel so safe, whether you were having, and again this can depend on where your personal parameters of that that breaking point, or that threshold, where you're kind of still in your body, you're still very much making choices on a rational level, but as you go through the layers and you start to reach that vocal, or sorry, that threshold, um, what gradually begins to fall away is, I mean, it's not always disassociation, but it can be to a certain point. It can be to where you start to go into your fight, your flight, your freeze mode, and those elements have such a big part to play in how we're presenting ourselves throughout the day, how we're presenting ourselves to our loved ones, to and in our work environment, how we're being productive or not productive, how we are able to hmm, truly take care of ourselves by recognizing and witnessing that you ultimately have a choice, that and the more you can start to know what your unique, and they are unique, but your unique um, signs and symptoms of going just past that threshold or going way into that threshold, and recognizing it. So we have this beautiful part of our brain that is the reptilian brain. It does things automatically, it does things and has done things for many times. One of the main focuses is to keep us safe. However, it doesn't always gear itself and take in a lot of information in your surrounding, meaning that there is times when some of our past programming is being overridden, and what has maybe worked at one point in your past, especially when you may have gotten triggered to a point where you felt really unsafe, or you were not listened to, you possibly were not, your needs were not being met, or they were not being respected, and it kind of created a little bit of a false cycle within a pattern in how you needed to handle yourself in that situation, and then that was brought forward into your everyday life and how you handle any situation when you get triggered. To break that really big concept down, I'm going to give an example, and I'm going to give a personal example because I think it's important in order to connect, in order to really feel the humanness in us all. We have to also realize that we all struggle. There is no happy-go-lucky person that is just happy and hasn't had struggle, because if you don't have struggle, you don't have growth. And if you don't have growth, you're really on a life pattern of just you know, I feel this is a piece for me, but I feel where you don't have the opportunity to become your highest self. And if that opportunity isn't there, if and to be perfectly honest, life is going to give you that opportunity. That is one of its main principal focus points, is to give you opportunities to grow. And how you come into that scenario time and time and time again is always a growing pattern in some way or another. And you have a choice of what type of growth that's going to be, that gift is going to be given to you. So to say for myself, my story, my situation, to give an example, I was in an abusive relationship for many years, and that abusive relationship, I had always, and I am again, but I had always been a very trusting person. So if someone told me something, I just innately believed what they were saying. And when all of a sudden, um, information came to light where they were lying, it made sense to me at my previous experiences, my previous life experiences, that I should be curious about that, and I should inquire, or I should ask the person who I know is lying to me, like, what's happening here? Why is this communication happening in this way? And what occurred when I brought up, or when I brought to light, um, a lie, and something that automatically triggered them. So at that stage, it was still very new in our relationship, and I had no tools to be able to understand the outcome that would occur in that scenario. And it was so fast, and I didn't come forward with anger, or I didn't do blame. I just came forward with more curiosity, like, you said this, that's not the truth, this is the truth. Can you explain to me, where the miscommunication came in paraphrasing, obviously, but in some way that's how I presented it. And it came back with an immediate, triggered effect, where that person got very violent, very fast, very, like, went from completely calm to completely irate within what felt like milliseconds. And my programming didn't have the tools, or didn't have the opportunity to understand what was occurring and how to keep myself safe, which, again, we'll talk about this more, which would have been to opt out, which would have been to just disengage from this person, who they are dealing with something entirely on their own, that had nothing to do with me. However, because there was love, and I say love, there is compassionate love, there was curiosity love, there was the need to understand, and which I think is very much a human compulsion, that I stayed in the scenario. And instead of first of all setting up a boundary, whoa, no thank you, this is not okay how you are responding, or how you are acting, or being able to stand up for myself, which would be a little bit more, and would have gone more along the kind of fight place. The whoa, no thank you is kind of like the calming space starting point of going in and along the fight space. But what I realized way after the fact was that my system, and this had occurred since childhood, when something came at me fast, 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 I froze. And I froze in a way that, the anger that was being projected onto me, the anger that that partner was presenting, and without my knowledge that I had triggered something in them, um, was so detrimental to my safe space, that I had no ability to think, to feel, to understand even the words that were coming out of their mouth. It was 100%. I was no longer there. So my I truly believe it's like my true essence needed to protect itself. So it just disassociated. It went somewhere else. It was not going to be there, but yet my physical and my mental and emotional self were still taking in the environment, still taking in that energy, even though it was not, um agreed to. It was not, first of all, requested, or even brought forward. It was projected. It was hurled at me, and there is such a thing as energetic, emotional warfare. And again, understanding more and more about it, that is what that is. There is a system to that. There's a reason why some individuals choose, or again, choice is a very liberal word there, but that is their pattern. There is an ultimate outcome to that. One way or another, my reaction was to freeze and just take being yelled at. And I think it felt like a lifetime, but I just remember the individual yelling and being more upset, and turning everything around, the gaslighting and everything, where I don't even remember really saying very much. But I just remember there was every essence of who I was being attacked. And I couldn't say, do, or respond to it in any way that I felt now, after the fact, that I felt could protect myself. The only thing I could do was freeze and take it. Now, these are pieces, and they're really deep pieces ingrained within us. In order to change that pattern, you have to really start to kind of feel out what occurs, and in what way is an okay way to be treated, and what way is not an okay way to be treated. Now, you want to be setting these guidelines for yourself and for the scenarios in your life way before they get to that point where you're in it. And never, and I'm going to say that this very strongly, never make yourself feel bad, or that you were wrong for, let's say that you go into a scenario and you're working on cultivating, like, I am just going to remind myself, when I'm in a scenario that is not okay, when I'm being yelled at, when I'm being rejected, when my feelings are, and I am not being respected or heard, I always, it does not matter what scenario it is. It does not matter if we are in a kitchen, and I'm saying more relationships, but this can be friendships, this can be family dynamics, this can be in all sorts of interesting scenarios. This can be a stranger who is also just triggered and projecting onto you their realities. You always have the option to opt out. You do not have to be polite. You do not need to, when you are being attacked, whatever level, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, which can also be represented as energetically, you don't need to stay there. That is not in your best interest. And to be perfectly honest, it's not in the best interest of that other individual, or even that group of people. And I'm going to say that because they have their stuff that they're going to need to deal with. You're not going to be able to help them with that. But you not taking it is not feeding into their delusion that they are somehow, because this is what I have started to understand, that they somehow feel like they need to teach, or that they're teaching, or that they're controlling. That's pretty much what I think the foundation is they are controlling the situation by controlling the person and their emotional response. Whew. So within that, we're going to start to break that down. And I just shared that story so that you can understand. And again, it doesn't have to be to that extreme. It can be, and it's great to work within some gentle dynamics, even just a little bit of conflict where perhaps you were having, let's take it more to a family dynamic. You were having a discussion, which there is lots of them. It's just part of being in a family dynamic. You were having a discussion, and there you weren't agreeing. There was a disagreement of some sort. That can cause a certain amount of emotional energy to be lifted. And if you're starting to feel yourself and starting to notice signs and symptoms, so for some of us, and again, there's such a multitude. It really truly is an understanding of getting to know thyself. But it can be pieces like tapping your foot, or touching a part of your body, sometimes massaging your body. It can be where you're holding your breath. Signs and symptoms can be where you, like physical, actual signs and symptoms can be where you start to get a headache or your heart starts to race. And maybe you don't even realize, maybe you're not even in the situation yet, but you notice that as you start to go down a certain lineage of or topic, these signs start to come up. It's almost like your preemptive nervous system is recognizing that something is coming energetically, even before words really have spoken. So that's something to really be mindful of as well. Now, it doesn't always mean that you need to turn around and run the other direction. I'm going to really reinstate, this is not a flee response either, because there sometimes needs to be conflict and dealing with those uncomfortable situations. You have to really begin, and again, we can work through that. This is just the very beginning broach into the subject, but we can work on that as we go. However, the most important foundational piece is, okay, I'm here. This is what I'm feeling in my body. I'm not going to turn this all off. In fact, I'm going to lean into it more. I'm going to get curious. Okay, my heart is racing. My head is starting to feel pounding. I'm tapping my fingers or I'm tapping my toes. You know, to be honest, these are my symptoms. These are my signs. These are my pieces. I start to really recognize that my literal tummy, my gut, my whole upper body just begins to activate or begins to tighten in response to whatever it's going to need to do. And as soon as I start to feel these signs and symptoms occurring, first of all, my very first piece, and it's become so habitual now that I almost recognize it as a sign, is I take a deep breath. And I take that breath, and that has become a habit for me where I recognize, okay, I'm already starting to go down and list off the tools that I have that are going to, one, take me out of that fight and flight, and my most common one is freeze, and it's going to bring me back into my body. It's going to bring me back into my body through my breath. And as I bring that breath in, as I take, and again, it's one inhale, not even 5, 10 seconds worth of time, but it will change everything on how you proceed forward from that space. So again, as I breathe and as I recognize, ooh, I am taking my calming breath, I'm taking my healing breath, that immediately sends a chain reaction of events that occurs where I start to collect information. I collect information from my physical elemental body. I collect information from my mental state and how I am literally doing. If I've just gotten done a really long day and someone is coming at me or someone is trying to, let's say, quote unquote, figure something out or have a deep conversation with me or blah blah blah, fill in the blank, and I am not capable. I am giving myself that understanding, that self-love. I am not capable at this time to be diving into something so deep. You need to say that. You need to state that boundary clearly and efficiently without the broach of being of them feeling like they can broach that subject and go into that subject or try to manipulate or maneuver. And I do say some of these things, manipulate is kind of on the one side of the spectrum, or maneuver is on the other side. Both of them are the same outcome, where they're either using a little bit of aggression to get you to do what they want you to do, or maneuvering means that they're using kind of coercion, like they're kind of using that slippery kind of emotional baggage kind of components. So especially if they know you well, they might know some of the things to get you to like just, oh well, honey, I really need to be talking. Appreciate that. No, thank you. I'm not able to handle this. However, I can, and again, it's always good to have a little bit of compromise within the dynamics, within the communication. If you would like to talk about this at a later date, and you can either set a date, which is always a really important foundational piece, especially in relationships. Sometimes within family dynamics, you can just say, I really don't want to talk about this. Maybe not ever, but definitely not today. Okay, you can set those dynamics. However, with a partner, because there is a coexisting, co-living environment space within partnerships, it's very helpful for the sake of the relationship that if they are needing, especially if they use those words, I need to talk to you about, I appreciate. I'm not in that state. I'm just not in that state to take on this topic. Can we please go and have an actual discussion over dinner or over a walk later tonight, tomorrow right after work? Like, set a time so that you both can then prepare yourself and be able to show up in a really authentic, very genuine, very stable way. And that can be a really wonderful just communication place to be able to create your safe space, to maintain your safe space, and to also be able to communicate how you need to. A little bit of space can give you the opportunity to communicate. I know we're going to have this conversation at such and such a time. I'd really enjoy if we could go at it in that way. Okay, so again, examples for myself, I'd really appreciate it if we can speak about it in a very calm, very gentle, and very like monotone way. So when we're discussing it, if one of us is starting to get heightened, meaning that our words are starting to get hopefully not aggressive, but if our words are starting to get heightened is a word that I use because it's fairly neutral. I would like the opportunity to pause the conversation and we can come back to it, or we can reassociate. We can kind of re-guide or reset the parameters, the boundaries from there. Okay, this is a communication style. This is not necessarily your communication style. The biggest thing about creating your safe space is two fundamental pieces. One, you always have the choice to opt out. You don't always have to use words to opt out if it feels like it is aggressive, if it feels like it is coming at you without the intention, without actually just wanting to be understood or heard, meaning that there is a repertoire of back and forth communication. If you're just getting piled on, if someone is just projecting their stuff onto you, words do not, sometimes no words are more powerful. Just turning around and leaving is always an option. And I said this before, but I'm going to reinstate it. It doesn't matter the environment you're in either. Um, this might feel a little uncomfortable, and this might be like one of those pieces I'm now gearing myself towards. I guess it's relationships, but it doesn't always have to be. But it's that little bit of a power struggle where if there's a relationship and one person is just in a little bit of a heightened state, they're in the power position, and you're feeling like you just have to support them, or you have to stay there because you're their partner, or because sometimes it even happens, within the power dynamics of kids and adults, and maybe kid is in full and you just need to be able to walk away like, honey, I love you. I'm not going to or I'm not going to stay here. um i'm I'm either leaving, I'm just going to tell you that I'm going to go into the other room. You touch back or you tune in when you're able to feel at a more calm space, because this is not okay for me. These kind of dynamics are using words, but sometimes just turning around and leaving the scenario. And if you are followed, meaning if that person is trying to trigger you no matter where you go, that is disrespectful. That is not respecting your environment, um your boundaries. And hopefully you can, when they're in a more calm state, reinstate those boundaries. But at this stage, you just need to find a safe space, and you need to be able to cultivate that so that you can allow, again, you're not breeding into and going into your irate reptilian brain, which again, there's no solution. When you get into a state where you are no longer feeling your body, you are no longer feeling your emotions, you have very little ability to make conscious choices that are going to be with a solution based outcome. So, pretty much in a nutshell, I'm going to say this in a little more of a blunt way. You're going to end up just piling more shit into the shit storm, and there's not going to necessarily be a solution that comes out of that. There's going to usually be just more hurt, more frustration, more feelings of misunderstood expressions. Because even if you are sharing things from a very calm state, you are sharing them to a person that is not in a calm state, and there's not going to be an outcome, and their outcome when they're in that state is to bring you to where they are. That just seems to be a little bit of a human piece as well. It's like that suffering enjoys company kind of component. So believe me, when they're in that heightened state, this is just, I don't enjoy being in that state. I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody, but I know for myself, I dislike being and bringing people into that state with me. That's a piece that really makes me uncomfortable. So I will tend to get really quiet and internalize what's happening. Other people deal with it differently, and they are very external, but they need to learn how to deal with things on their own, and deal with things in a way that is healthy for the other individuals in their life. So to close this little bit of a segment today, I just wanted to say, so if you're in a situation, if the nervous system, you're going into your reptilian brain, or even you're just starting to feel those signs and symptoms of getting triggered, it's important to recognize that, because that is an important tool that your body, your emotions, your mind, and your spirit, your source, is giving you to let you know, oh, this does not feel good. um this can be handled, but maybe I'm just not in the right state of mind at this moment to handle it. I need to opt out. I need to communicate that I'm opting out, or I just need to opt out altogether, and be able to handle, or be able to set some parameters if I feel like I'm in a really unsafe space where that doesn't happen again, and reinstating that if I'm, because of what I went through, I'm very strong. I'm very solid. And again, those are the blessings between being and surviving a very abusive relationship, is my boundaries. That is a gift. I think that situation pretty much almost every day, because my boundaries are solid and strong. I never lost my compassion though, and I think that's an important feature. My boundaries are solid and strong, so that individuals know what is okay and what isn't okay for me. And I always, or not always, I'm always working on making sure that my safe space is there and respected. And if it's not, I have my lessons, I have my protocol, I have my rituals that I perform, which are automatic now, and which become part of. Doesn't mean that I'm not always going into disassociation, or I'm going into my freeze. It doesn't mean that I don't go there. Sometimes I always give myself compassion when that scenario, or when life brings forward a situation where I go there again. Always give myself compassion, self-love. It's okay that I went there. That is my pattern, and it worked for me at certain elements in my life. It's not working for me now. So reinstating and having this little internal conversation with myself is an important part of my rituals, is an important part, because then it doesn't make me bad. It doesn't make me wrong. I made choices within the moment, and after the moment has passed, I'm able to collect the information. Okay, that didn't quite work for me that time around, or I didn't quite handle that the way I would have wanted to. I'm going to give myself the love and compassion for going on a pattern, and I'm going to choose. I'm going to either, make amends if I need to make amends, or I'm going to set boundaries if I need to set boundaries, or I'm going to reinstate my safe space in some way that is going to be a fundamental a-okay for me, if that makes sense. It is important. It is, again, we've talked about this quite a bit, say it a lot, but it is putting on that proverbial life mask. It is putting on that oxygen. It is, when things are happening, it is putting that oxygen on yourself first, so that you can be the calm, you can be, hopefully, the hero, heroine in your story, because it's the person that is taking care of themselves first, who then is able to assess the scenario, assess their environment. Okay, I'm now taken care of. Now, how may I be of service, if I feel like I can do that, to the people, the situation, the environment around me? And that truly is a gift to give yourself, which every human, every person on this planet has the opportunity to cultivate that and to work on those skills. It's just a matter of understanding some of it's again, know thyself. It's a matter of beginning to dig a little bit underneath the surface layer of who you are and really fall in love with the deeper aspects of who you are, from past situations, from past patterns. They teach us. They are there to teach us. And as we bring those little golden nuggets forward, we let go what is no longer serving us, but we bring the golden nuggets forward and we utilize those as we move forward in our life, because we become a stronger, fuller, more attuned, more empowered person through those experiences. That's an opportunity. It doesn't, and it does have sometimes that you have to feel everything, and that can be heavy and sorrow filled, and those pieces are part of the journey, but they don't have to be the whole journey, if that makes sense here, if that makes sense here. Whew. So to close, to come to close, I just want to say and state the love that we have, that the possibility of the amount of love that we collectively that we have available to us is incredible. At several points in my life, I've been privileged enough to tap into and to be able to feel this universal love, and really, um, in one way or another, again, within using the human conscious mind, being able to understand it. If not understand it, then just really, really feel it. Um, and I truly believe those gifts, those gateways, they are the maneuvering component of getting through those really dark components, staying the course, and feeling it. Like, there is golden nuggets, there is beautiful wisdom and self-awareness and self tools that are created just for you, by you, through the choices, through the scenarios that you have gone through. And if you have the tenacity, the drive, the excitement, but even if it's not excitement, it's just pure need or curiosity to be able to just dig a little bit deeper and dive a little bit more into that, and have someone maybe hold your hand or hold space for you while you're doing that. It is so incredible and so powerful. And these little moments in time of feeling connected to yourself, which really means you're connected to everything, it's it's worth it. So if you're feeling curious, if you're wanting to dive deeper into that and go deeper into conversations like this, and where we actually get into the tools, into the constructs of, okay, you know, A, B, C, D, E, let's do this, and this. Like, getting a little bit deeper. It's great to have conversations, but it's important to sometimes create a space that you can dive into those. Um, Protocols. I call them rituals. So I have rituals within my life that, woo, this is happening. Okay, this is some of the A B C D E steps I need to take, but then it's always followed by some sort of and some form of ritual, because then that brings me back to myself, brings me back to my safe space. And that safe space is where I am feeling that connection to others, connection to myself, connection to my environment, and ultimately always, and I try to never lose this, but ultimately a connection to that joy center, to that space within myself that is always there, always helping, always guiding, always sending me that solidity, that inner knowing. So if you're curious on more about that, check into my YouTube, or subscribe if you feel like you want to. The subscription allows you to get into some of my deeper content, and always reach out to me. I have lots of teachings, so enjoy. Thank you for seeing or for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon tomorrow.